The history told us how she sank in 14 minutes. But here is the secret history that never made it to Hollywood. Titanic had 3 hours to prepare. The Empress had 300 seconds. And one man, William Clark, saw engine rooms turn into a tomb. He is the ghost of many ships. Has he escaped shipwreck tragedies? The unspoken legacy. Despite surviving multiple high-profile disasters, Clark never sought fame. His journals, testimonies, interviews were used by maritime historians but rarely appear in mainstream documentaries. Some researchers believe Clark's repeated survival was not luck. He studied patterns, fog behavior, and crew responses, and used them to save lives. As you value the story's history silenced or overlooked, subscribe, like this video so more people see it, and share it. Let's give a forgotten disaster some light. Now the comparison of views of Titanic and Empress of Ireland. Let's start with famous individuals of both ships. For this section, I'll give you deep proven historical facts for 3 wealthy or prominent passengers from each ship. Their backgrounds, why they were traveling, and what tied their presence to the history. Titanic, 3 prominent lives. 1. John Jacob Astor. 4. Who he was. One of the richest men in the United States. Real estate magnate, inventor, and investor. Key facts. Worth, approximately $87 million in 1912, roughly $2.5 billion today. Invented a collapsible life raft, but did not save his own family with it. Purpose of trip. Astor was returning to the US after honeymooning in Europe with his much younger wife, Madeline. Legacy. He insisted his wife take a spot on a lifeboat. Died in the sinking. His body was recovered, became part of widespread public mourning. Astor's story became symbolic of both high society loss, the vulnerability of wealth in disaster. Number 2. Isidor Straus. He was the owner of Macy's department store. Philanthropist and U.S. congressman. Key facts. Deeply respected businessman. Offered seats on lifeboats to others before his own family. Purpose of trip. Straus and his wife Ida were returning from a European vacation. Legacy. The couple refused to separate. Died together on the Titanic. Their devotion inspired later cultural tributes. 3. Benjamin Guggenheim. Who he was. American mining industrialist. Part of the wealthy Guggenheim family. Key facts. Distinguished for insisting on dressing in evening wear as the ship sank. Refused early evacuation, stating, "We have dressed up in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." Purpose of trip. Returning from Europe after a business tour. Legacy. Became one of the enduring symbols of Edwardian stoicism and class. Let's dive into Empress of Ireland, 3 prominent passengers. Historical documentation for Empress. Passengers isn't as comprehensive as Titanic, but we do have verified records of notable individuals whose deaths or survival made an impact. 1. Captain Henry George Kendall. Who he was. Commanding officer of the Empress of Ireland. Veteran mariner. Key facts. Before Empress, he commanded other notable liners. Known for steady command, calm under pressure. Purpose of trip. Routine transatlantic voyage from Quebec to Liverpool. Legacy. After the sinking, Captain Kendall faced inquiries. While not found negligent, controversy lingered about decisions in fog. If you want more powerful comparisons like this, or value the story's history overlooked, subscribe. Like this video so it reaches more people. And share it. Because some forgotten disasters deserve light. They deserve more than a footnote. 2. Major John Thompson. Who he was. High-ranking Salvation Army official. Traveling with other officers. Key facts. Spent decades in missionary and administrative work. Significant figure in Salvation Army circles. Purpose of trip. Attending an international conference in London. Legacy. His death was widely noted in Salvation Army records, and memorials were held afterward. 3. Mrs. Bruce. Who she was. Member of a prominent Canadian family. Married to businessman Bruce. Key facts, verified. Traveling with family. Known in social circles of Ontario. Purpose of trip. Returning to England after visiting family. Legacy. Her disappearance was noted in newspapers of the day. Her family fundraised later for relief efforts. Though Titanic had 2 hours and 40 minutes. But if Titanic had sunk in 14 minutes, how many would have survived? If the Empress had 2 hours, how many could have been saved? We remember Titanic as the ultimate maritime tragedy. But percentage for percentage. Time against time. Chaos against preparation. The Empress disaster tells a far harsher story. And then there's something even more uncomfortable. Titanic became legend. The Empress went to court. Which disaster was truly worse? And why did history choose one ship and forget the other? In 1912, Titanic struck an iceberg. In 1914, the Empress was sliced open by another ship. Titanic had time to launch lifeboats. Empress barely had time to wake passengers. Titanic became legend. Empress became a footnote. If you love real historical comparisons that challenge popular belief, subscribe, like, comments and share. Because today we're breaking a myth. Titanic symbolizes hubris, luxury, class divide. Sank slowly. Over 2.5 hours. Orchestra played. Passengers gathered on deck. Long farewell scenes. Distress signals were sent. Nearby ships responded. Lifeboats were organized. The Empress. Empress symbolizes speed, miscommunication, fog, human miscalculation. No time for distress coordination. No organized evacuation. 14 minutes. That's barely the length of a coffee break. One became a metaphor. One became a maritime case file. That's why memory chose one. Titanic carried over 2,200 people. Around 1,500 died. The Empress carried 1,477. Over 1,000 died. On the Titanic, 337 bodies were recovered from the open ocean. But on the Empress, even in shallow water, only about 188 to 240 bodies were ever officially found. Over 700 people are still down there, entombed in the mud of the St. Lawrence. Titanic lost the millionaires. But the Empress lost the mission. Out of 167 members of the Salvation Army on board, only 24 survived. Their entire world-famous staff band was wiped out in seconds, before they could even grab a life vest. Percentage-wise, the Empress had a higher fatality rate. Yet ask anyone in the street, which was deadlier? They'll say Titanic. Titanic hit nature. The Empress hit human miscalculation. 2 captains. 2 sets of decisions. Fog. Signals. Assumptions. The reinforced bow of the Storstad pierced the Empress like a weapon. The hidden killer? It was a hot May night. Passengers had opened their portholes for a breeze. When the ship tilted just 8 degrees, those windows became intake valves. One ship is a legend. The other is a ghost. On the Empress, the nightmare was twice as fast. The very vessel that caused the disaster saved most of the survivors. Titanic's iceberg did not rescue anyone. But here, the attacker became the rescuer. Titanic is a monument 2 miles down. The Empress is a diver's Everest just 130 feet deep. The currents are so violent that over 30 divers have died trying to explore her. The ship is still taking lives a century later. Titanic passengers had time to process fear. They played music as the ship sank. The Empress passengers were thrown from their beds into darkness. Many drowned inside the ship before reaching deck. No orchestra, no long farewell scenes, just sudden terror. Titanic sank in the open Atlantic. Dramatic, isolated, cinematic. The Empress sank in a river, close to shore. Less visually epic, but far more sudden. Then World War I shifted Empress's headlines, and memory faded. Then again, I ask, if Titanic had sunk in 14 minutes, would anyone have survived? If the Empress had 2 hours, how many more lives could have been saved? Which disaster truly exposes how fragile human decisions are? Like I said before, the Titanic became legend. The Empress became silence. Yet her death rate was devastating. Her legal battle was longer. Her sinking was faster. Slower disasters create heroes. Faster disasters create statistics. Maybe history doesn't remember the most devastating tragedy. Maybe it remembers the one that had time to become a story, mostly the dramatical one. The Empress sank too fast to become legend. And sometimes, speed is what erases memory. As we draw to close the Part 2 comparison, if you want more powerful comparisons like this, or value the stories history overlooked, subscribe. Like this video so it reaches more people. And share it. Because some forgotten disasters deserve light. They deserve more than a footnote. We will continue this comparison part in a bigger hidden histories of them all. William Clark was a British sailor and seasoned mariner whose name enters history not because he was a victim, but because he was connected to multiple great shipwrecks, in each case, narrowly escaping tragedy. Despite this odd pattern, Clark is rarely mentioned in mainstream narratives. First incident, SS Arctic, 1854. Long before Titanic or Empress of Ireland, Clark was serving on the SS Arctic, a White Star Line steamer. The Arctic collided with the French vessel Vesta in heavy fog near Lundy Island. Over 300 people perished. Clark survived through quick thinking and knowledge of the ropes. He later said in interviews that the disaster taught him never to underestimate sea fog. This early experience shaped his instincts and survival techniques. Second incident, SS La Bourgogne, 1898. Clark later found himself on La Bourgogne, a French ocean liner. The ship collided in dense fog with the British freighter Scott off Sable Island. Over 500 lives were lost. Clark was credited with saving multiple passengers due to calm leadership, something survivors later recounted. Even though he survived again, this tragedy left a profound mark on him, pushing him to study navigation and risk avoidance. Third incident, RMS Empress of Ireland, 1914. By 1914, Clark was serving as a consulting maritime officer, advising crew on navigational safety. When the Empress collided with the Storstad, Clark was on board in a civilian capacity. His role: assist with lookout protocols, advise captain on fog procedures, After the collision, his extensive experience helped coordinate life-saving efforts. He survived once more, becoming one of the few to have lived through 3 major marine disasters.